As far as diverting the water so we don't get the sewer back up?
A few things that, I know that what we did, we took the restrainers out on some of the streets and so that, because they were restricting the water. But right now, when we get those rains that were hit a few weeks ago, which was about 2-3 inches in a half hour, there's no system around that can handle it. We try to keep it in the street, and then you know that once the streets, once the rain stops, it'll all go down and then we'll be okay. That's one of the reasons why we are picking out streets like Overhill, and we're replacing the whole sewer system to help over there. So as we go through the village, we try to pick out one project to keep helping where we have some flooding and some other problems over there. But in your situation when you're talking over here, our biggest problem is, and I think you and I have had this discussion, or at least at a meeting we discussed it, that once the sewers get charged, which means they're full, and we got the sewer from Chicago, once that gets there, water goes nowhere.
Right, until the city does something.
Until that water goes down, it goes nowhere. People have some pumps, they have flood control, it just recycles most of the water, it doesn't go anywhere at this point. And that's our biggest problem when we have those rainfalls that come in 3 inches in a half hour or whatever.
Okay. My second question is also regarding flooding. The village has been very kind to offer subsidies on flood control,
yes.
And I understand with the state of the economy of the state of Illinois and, you know, up in the air, everyone's really going to be watching their dollars real tight. And I thank the village for what they have done. Would the village possibly consider adding another category to flood control other than lift stations? And I'm referring to standby generators because all the flood control in the world, lift stations, are useless if you have no electrical power.
That's true. And we have been lucky in the village because we haven't lost a lot of electricity. A couple parts every so often, but not much. So we've been lucky in that area. What I would say to you is I could refer this to the water department, which is Trustee Sulmowski, to see what we could do on that end. And to give your answer to a comment from Springfield, they now stopped all the grants. So the grant that we had for $500,000 for the lights that we put in the budget that they said we had last year underneath Governor Quinn.
Did you get the money?
No. And what they did was they froze them all. I think we have a partial amount of money, which they'll probably ask back. But right now, not $1 is coming out of Springfield. And it's not because they're picking on the village of Norridge. Rosemont, everyone, all the mayors I talked to, we're all in the same boat.
Okay. Something else you may want to at least look into, and this is a relatively very inexpensive option, tree trimming. I'm not referring to beautification of the village or anything like that. I'm strictly talking about streets where you have power lines running. I know ComEd does some of it. I know the village does some of it. But maybe the village can look into it, maybe trim a little more strictly on streets where there's trees, where the power lines are. Usually it's the east-west streets. There's something to think about because that way, okay, we can't do anything if the electric does go out, but if the tree short circuits something, that's something that maybe we can reduce. Can you eliminate it? No.
No. And you're right, Commonwealth Edison, they kind of have their own trucks that they kind of do it. But many times, like Haney is our vendor, and they have a plan where they do certain sections of the village each year, so that's how they cover it. Because too many times we would be doing a lot of the village different places, and that account would bust out because everybody wanted their trees, you know, trimmed. That's how it goes.
Right, so that's beautification. I'm talking about strictly with power lines.
So what we have started to do is, in emergency situations, we'll send them out there to take care of it, but they also have that plan where they do certain sections. A lot of times, hand in hand, if it's up in the wires and they don't want to go up there either. So we have to get a hold of Commonwealth Edison and get them involved. But that trees is also, Trustee Solomowski, we can talk about that too, right?
One other thing, Mr. President, we had at one time looked into providing generators, portable generators as well. Did not seem to be a good idea at the time.
Okay.
For one of the reasons is the insurance of who's going to control it, how are we going to do that, how are we going to manage that, and then just the fact that people, if we gave them money for it, what's to say they're not going to take it up to their Wisconsin cabin home and things like that.
That's available.
So we did look at that, and we decided at the time that, you know, it's been a viable option, and for the most part, Commonwealth Edison has been very good in getting power up and going for us here, really, and I'd have to talk to Brian perhaps, and we'd have to talk to Com Edison, but I don't really recall of us being without power for any extended period of time. I understand, and you have a valid point and argument that naturally your pumps aren't going to work when you don't have the power, but that didn't really seem to be an issue at the time.
I was not really thinking about portable generators, I was thinking about, you know, built-in structures.
You're talking the natural gas one.
Yeah, where
And
it's.
that's something I think we can look at, because
Because
they stay with the house. Yeah, they stay with the house.
Yes.
But they're, in fact, I remember, Trustee Solomowski, we had a talk with one of our vendors, and they can run from 4, 6, 8, if you want to run the whole house, they can go 8 to 10.
$10,000.
Exactly. So if you want to run maybe one panel, which is the sump pump and that stuff, those are things we can look at, but I agree with,
I agree.
otherwise we're subsidizing someone taking up
Yeah.
their.
No, you're absolutely right, and I agree with you.
Yeah.
And Mr. President, we did also look at those permanent stationary generators as well too, when the power goes out, that they kick in and that bill too. But then there's a lot of issues with the building permits and codes and all this other stuff that we would add other additional expense onto that as well.
Okay.
So, and, because I personally looked at it for, when I had my new garage built, I was looking for one, and it was in excess of $7,000. Just for the unit itself, and that didn't include running the gas line or whatever you needed to do that as well too. So even if you were to give 10% of, you know, $7,000.
Okay, I mean, just if you just maybe consider, at least look into it.
We can look into it again,
Explore, that's all I'm
absolutely.
asking.
Well,
And I understand budgets are real tight now, it's a bad time to ask for that.
your neighbor here, Wally, talked to me about it one time, because I know he now has a generator, and I talked to him about it. I think it's a great idea for people to do, especially to back up their sump pump, because that battery's only gonna last a long time too if we have a real problem. So that's something that we could look at, but we know they're very expensive, and what are we paying out for, like, a system, 15% or 20%, do you know?
It depends on the system.
System?
It depends on the system. For the type of system I believe that Trustee Gregorio had, I think we're giving out as much as $1,500 for the type of system with that.
Okay.
But then there was a more economical system where it was just a check valve, and I think we were giving up to
$100.
$400 to $500, somewhere in that neighborhood. So there was that relief for that, and the system that Trustee Gregorio, I know, had installed, I think that it'll sustain even with the electric going out, if I'm not mistaken. So, but those systems are gonna cost around $10,000 for that.
I put mine in before we got the other money.
Okay, I have one of those systems, and mine costs just shy of $10,000, but unfortunately, if I lose power,
Yeah,
when the tank fills, I'm done.
yeah.
Well, one thing interesting, Mr. Berger, is that I don't think we've been using that whole account up. I think it's slowed up. And when we first put it on, a lot of people in this side of the village, closer to the mall and everything else, they were getting those systems put in.
Right.
And all of a sudden, it kind of dried up. Now, I don't know if it dried up because nobody wants to put up the 4,000 or 5,000, because that's about what they have to put up. But adding generators might not be a bad idea. There's the standalones with the natural gas, because again, we still have room in the account. So that might be something you could look into.
Just explore it, that's all I'm asking.
No, I like the idea, but I just know that when people say, well, how do I get my $1,000? They're, well, you gotta bring us some receipts, you gotta show us that you paid 5 or 6. They don't wanna pay the 5 or 6.
You do the same thing like you did like for the fire station. You gotta bring a release of lien and everything else. You know, yes, you are fronting 5, okay, I'm fronting more than 5, but okay. That's the cost of doing this.
So I agree with you. I think it's a good idea.
I mean, in that way, you know, we're not taking it up to Wisconsin or using it for tailgating. I
Well,
understand that totally.
you know, when I first
And
moved in
people will
here,
do that.
it seemed like as we say in the phone company, the existing plant around here wasn't up to par. And Edison, Commonwealth Edison did a good job replacing the existing plant. When we moved in here, I did buy a portable generator. And since I've been here, and I've been here for some years, okay, I think I've used it 2 times, and that was in the early part when we moved in here. I don't recall the last time I've had to use my generator before that.
Okay.
Well, if you can get an extension cord to the wall.
Oh, yeah, Mr. Berger, if you have a line,
You know,
extension.
you may need, you may need
Or-
about 300 yards to get there.
If you want to come by the house and pick it up, if you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the opportunity to speak.
Wally Macon, 2421 Terrace. You're talking generator. If you want just 8 circuits on the generator, automatic, when Edison goes off, you're talking $5 grand.
Right.
But then you're talking about 180 every year to have the oil changed and, you know, maintenance.
That's
So it's not just, you
Right.
buy the generator, you know, it's not like you're gonna
You
get
gotta
it out of the
maintain it.
garage,
You have to
plug it
maintain
in.
like a lift
Somebody's
station.
gotta be home to do that, and if you're out, it doesn't work. You know, it's not worth the thing. And since you're working on Overhill, I'd like you to look at Paris and, what's one next street, on Guild, that's where the water comes down and it all comes to one end.
See, this is the time
So-
I always turn to Brian and say, Brian.
Yeah, I know,
can't do
I
it."
know, I know.
And Brian, but one thing,
I'm not looking for $4 million, I'm just looking for, hey, half of the,
half a 4 million?
half the street, because the west side of the street is okay. It's the east side of the street that's best.
Oh, and by the way, Mr. President, Mr. Macno, when he's talking about the electrical circuitry, he was one of Illinois Bell's finest building mechanics and building supervisors, so he knows from which he speaks.
I've always said that when you two guys retire, you went downhill.
It's all right, it's all right. I haven't built an ark yet, so we're okay.
Any other comments or questions at this point? Okay, I ask for adjournment then.
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Jones, second trustee Gregorio, vote please. 7-6-0, whatever it is, 6-0, I know we got 4. Motion carries and see you in 2 weeks.